Everyone has said, me included, the stewards included, the last thing any of us want is for this to A, be decided in the stewards' room or weeks to come in the Court of Appeal.
Mercedes not happy. Red Bull will be delighted. Max Verstappen is champion of the world.
A sequence of events that none of us have seen before.
The two contenders equal on points, side by side on the front row of the grid. You could not write a better plot than this.
On the first lap, Hamilton took the lead. Then, as Verstappen tried to overtake, Hamilton left the track, cut a corner and stayed in front. And with 5 laps to go, the Canadian driver Nicholas Latifi crashed. There was debris all over the track. The cars didn't stop, but they stopped racing, and they now followed the safety car. These laps counted, so if the safety car did 5 laps, Hamilton would be world champion. But with the final lap approaching, the race director ordered the safety car to come in. And as the championship reached its finale, Verstappen passed Hamilton, fended off a counterattack and won.
Michael, this isn't right. Michael.
Go ahead, Toto.
You need to reinstate the lap before. That's not right.
Toto?
Yes.
It's called a motor race, okay?
Controversial, any, just a tad. But why? Well, because it was Lewis, because it was Max, because it was bad blood, because of the stakes. Because after 21 races and 57 laps, Michael Masi would change the course of F1 history with 5 simple words: safety car in this lap. And with this, Masi had cast himself in a pivotal role in what would be the final act of an era-defining championship.
Michael Masi, the race director, I think is a man very keen. If he can possibly do it, will finish as a race, not behind the safety car.
The last race, in the last lap, it's unbelievable.
In terms of decision, for a turn like that, I'm not so sure.
Confirmation of that protest is just dropped right now. They're protesting the outcome of the race.
The situation we're at the moment is that the initial protests have been rejected by the stewards' inquiry.
Do you think Michael Masi has directed his last race now?
Good question.
The FIA say that Michael Masi has lost his current role as race director.
Michael Masi. What's Michael Masi doing in the paddock?
But 20 months have been and gone since, and I think it's worth us taking a fresh look at this. All you'll need is an open mind. But what we're not going to do is burn Michael Masi at the stake again. That narrative's tired. The market for that saturated. Nah. In this, the top 5 reasons why you can't blame Michael Masi for Abu Dhabi 21. We'll be challenging conventional wisdom, stress testing the assumptions underlying generally accepted fact. Now, all teammates are created equally, but some are more equal than others. And when Checo was called on by the team at Turkey and Abu Dhabi, he showed up huge, being just enough of a thorn in Lewis Hamilton's side to make a difference. Case in point, whenever Max would find himself on the same piece of track as Checo, he wouldn't even have to lift.
And he can give his teammate a bit of DRS for good measure, so great team play. That's the team play we talked about earlier on. Now he gets clean out of the way.
Oh, Checo is a legend.
In stark contrast over at Mercedes, on occasion, Valtteri Bottas would prove more antagonist than ally.
Valtteri's not in contention necessarily for the win, as is going to happen.
He's going to turn in on him. Whoa.
I mean, a stubbornness in Spain, but the Finn would go on to outdo himself at Zandvoort, forcing Hamilton into an unscheduled pit stop.
Valtteri, it's James. Please abort the fastest lap attempt for the end of the lap.
When he'd seized the fastest lap and the championship point that comes with it for himself.
He's still got the fastest lap though. Oh no. Crucial thing for Hamilton is can he get the fastest lap of the race?
All told, Bottas had been MIA for most of the season, leaving his teammate Lewis to fight off Perez and Verstappen single-handedly. No fair. I mean, you only need to think back to Mexico, where Bottas made the schoolboy error of not defending turn 1, lap 1, round the outside to Max Verstappen.
Turn 1 we go! Verstappen is into the lead, ahead of Hamilton. Bottas gets tagged.
And this left Lewis vulnerable late onto a charging Checo Perez.
And there we go. Is that the lunge? It would have been a bit wild if it had been.
Think France. Bottas had one job: defend Max Verstappen. And critically, when it mattered for all the marbles in Abu Dhabi, Bottas was a no-show, inconspicuous in his absence. I mean, he had the fastest car but qualified 6th. He'd be down to 8th as soon as the first lap. What's that about? There'd be no holding up of Verstappen like there was Lewis. Bottas would finish the race in 7th. His only meaningful contribution to the race was jumping in the pool afterwards to celebrate his stint with Mercedes. And this against the backdrop of Lewis's controversial loss. Cheers, mate. Here's the truth of it. They were better everywhere. They were more clinical in their decision making, more agile in their operation. They outmaneuvered their competition at almost every single turn, not least in Abu Dhabi.
Even though the company has grown to 3 times the size that when Red Bull came into the sport, we've had that dynamic ability to move and adapt quickly.
So ruthless were Horner's lot in AD. They'd use Checo Perez as a sacrificial lamb, as bait almost. They'd short fuel Perez so he was light and racy enough to back up Lewis into Max.
Perez playing the ultimate team game here for Max Verstappen, and this is really frustrating Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be hurting his tyres a little bit as well.
And crucially for Verstappen's championship hopes, unlike Valtteri Bottas, Checo got the assignment because Checo would cost Lewis a net 7 seconds, and that would prove vital.
You know, we'd used Sergio Perez earlier in the race to try and back Lewis up, to give Max a chance.
Back him up, back him up.
So it put Mercedes in a dilemma. We had nothing to lose.
Because but for this, Lewis would have had the free pit stop and Mercedes would have been able to cover off Verstappen irrespective of any safety car. There would have been no joker for Red Bull to play. And Horner, it seemed, was living rent-free in Toto's head. Christian's mind game saw the usually stoic Toto become uncharacteristically erratic, beside himself at times. Horner and his right-hand man Wheatley were astute, crafty even. I mean, they stop at nothing to get at the soft regulatory underbelly that was race director Michael Masi, because they correctly identified Michael Masi as get-atable. The culmination of this, Abu Dhabi 21. Horner's mob raced hard and they were street smart, and ultimately when this mattered, this will tell the tale. In the clutch, the 8-time constructors would make critical mistakes at the wrong times, and this would ultimately cost them the championship. In Bahrain quali, Verstappen got a toe from his teammate, dropped it on pole.
So it's not been a great lap for Max Verstappen so far.
Who wants to try and improve on his time so far and is not looking good to do that.
Mercedes elected not to do the same. Why? Optimising for Bottas's qualifying performance was their focus. Strategically, Red Bull would run circles around Mercedes, not least in France where the strategy was a 2-stopper. Mercedes opted for 1. This would cost Lewis the race, and that would be a 14-point swing. 14. It's worth noting that this by itself would have made Michael Masi's decision of 0 consequence. Lewis would have won the championship. But there were costly mistakes on track too.
And he was just very unlucky. Bottas, I think, could get some big penalties.
Great magic.
Perez tried to cut off Hamilton, who locks up and goes straight on. Perez leads from Sebastian Vettel.
25 points lost. And even in Abu Dhabi, grizzled F1 vets have questioned the timing of Lewis's go off the restart. Why not go when Max was alongside you?
It has left Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen side by side.
When the Dutchman's steering angle would have been too acute, prohibiting him from going full throttle, a la Charles in Bahrain 22.
Yep. Trying to hustle the guy who's about it, and he's left himself very tight on that last corner, actually, has Max.
And why was Lewis clipping so early down the straight? Wrong engine mode on the preceding laps? Who knows? All we know for certain is that Mercedes made mistakes, championship deciding ones. What's more, politically, Mercedes and Toto were naive, too often a passive bystander. Watching on as grizzled vets Wheatley and Horner got stuck into a fallible, inexperienced Michael Masi.
So Lewis, apparently no investigation necessary for running you off track.
Of course, man. Of course. Christian and Michael.
Yes, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, why aren't we getting these lap cars out of the way?
Because, Christian, just give me a second.
You only need 1 racing lap.
And critically, the protest after Abu Dhabi should have been more robust. But true to form, when they needed to be at their most aggressive, they were passive. Mercedes, at the very least, should have seen the protest through, taking it to the International Court of Appeal. Surely. Since Charlie Whiting's tragic passing, the support team around the race director has been, well, a little flaky, lacking, let's say. The regs and the sporting code of conduct, the foundation on which Michael Masi has to make all of his decisions, are too complicated, open to interpretation. Put simply, not fit for purpose when it comes to modern day F1. There are 1,000 potential infractions every single race. I mean, just look at Austria this year. FIA's regulatory infrastructure then was built on a house of cards, thus setting up Masi and Co for a fall of epic proportions. To that mess apply a season fraught with controversy, warring factions, and a final race decider. All that the FIA has done here is make a rod for Michael Masi's back. The role was a poison chalice for Pete's sake. To boot, this fella was overworked and underpaid. He was there every single race, just like the drivers, but with zero chance of glory. All that awaited Michael Masi was the hatred of millions of F1 fans all around the world. No fair. I mean, did he make an unprecedented call to enable a one-lap shootout? Absolutely. Did Masi sacrifice sporting integrity at the altar of sports entertainment? Maybe. But why? Well, because of the number one reason why you can't blame Michael Masi for Abu Dhabi 21. Now, ever since Liberty Media became the commercial rights holder in 2017, there's been a push to make a mainstream commodity out of the sport of F1. Through social media, through Netflix's Drive to Survive. And when 2021, a once-in-a-lifetime type season, just fell into Liberty Media's laps, while they were incentivized to squeeze it for all that it was worth. And a grandstand last lap shootout for all the marbles is just what the doctor ordered. And you know, I think in hindsight, it's this that gave rise to a ton of dodgy decisions. 5 cars can unlap themselves, but not the other 3. There's no time. Safety car is in, and even though the regs said there should be another additional lap, not going to do it this time. No time. Max's aggressive over crowd turned for Brazil. No investigation. Grid place penalty for Lewis for a 2mm rear wing infringement. Brake test. 5-second penalty. Now, it'd be so much easier to land all of this on Michael Masi's doorstep. But you know, I wasn't buying it then, and I'm not buying it now. That race ending on the safety car was anticlimactic. It was like a draw. Liberty Media is an American company, remember, and draws don't happen in American sports. Now, you best believe Abu Dhabi was a watershed moment. That was the day when F1 became less of a sport than it is entertainment. There you have it. Liberty Media, the number one reason why you can't blame Michael Masi for Abu Dhabi 21. If you like that one, you'll love this one on why Max Verstappen may never be the greatest.